This program is suitable for all audiences.
Welcome to Morning Talk for another day. I'm Kip Sunbeck.
And I'm Valerie McKenzie. Thank you for joining us.
Now we're here at the beautiful Sukhothai, Bangkok, and it's wonderful to have such a great life here in Bangkok, isn't it? All the opportunities open for us, so many different things that we can do. But there's another group actually in Thailand, I think 2 million people who are migrant workers. They're all the people that we see often on construction sites. Many are maids,
In
cooks,
the fishing villages.
Fishing villages, a lot of shrimp peelers,
Exactly,
people
putting
in
the
the
fish into
seafood
the can.
industry. And these people have to work very hard, and we need them in Thailand because these are jobs that Thai people no longer wish to do. We have almost full employment. Everybody wants to work and do something else. Somebody has to do these jobs. But what are their rights? And what rights do they really need to have? And how could we be good humans and look after the rest of humanity as well, including the migrant workers? We're going to be talking to the Rux Thai Foundation about this exact issue in just a moment, because to me it's one of those examples. You say, okay, we are a good people or we're a good country. People can judge how good a country is. They look at the dogs on the street, or they look at how people treat other people, or they look at the state of buildings.
Very
These
much
are all
so.
signs of, are we a good society or not?
And are we really a positive group, or are we a negative group? You know, it's interesting how people see things that we don't think matter sometimes.
Well, I'm sure it matters for many of the migrant workers. Well, here in Thailand we have many organisations that aim to help Thai people and also to help visitors to Thailand as well, be they tourists or migrant workers as well, who spend a lot of time in Thailand. They generate a huge amount of benefits for the local economy. But do we really do a good enough job in terms of looking after them? And certainly we've done a story on Morning Talk perhaps 2 or 3 years ago with regards to migrant workers and the aftermath of the tsunami, how they never really got any protection. You would have thought a story on Morning Talk would have generated a lot of talk, but in fact many of those same problems seem to still be occurring with regards to migrant workers. So it's very interesting to see that the Rux Thai Foundation, who we're going to find out about in just a moment, are actually focusing on this and have been doing so for a number of years now in terms of addressing and improving the conditions for migrant workers here in Thailand. So it's with pleasure I introduce the Executive Director of the Rux Thai Foundation here in Bangkok. We have Kun Prombun Panichapak. Thank you very much for joining us on Morning Talk.
Good morning.
Now, just firstly, stepping back, Rux Thai Foundation, you do many things, not just migrant workers, is that correct?
We do many things. We also work a lot with Thai population, Thai youth, Thai children. We were established 12 years ago, but we have a history about 20 years in Thailand as Care International.
But Care International, when you translate it, is Raksa
Yes.
or, and Rak sort of combined, so that's why Rux Thai Foundation. Okay, clear.
Right.
And so if we talk about migrant workers, what are the issues? I mean, there are 2 million migrant workers, I understand, in Thailand these days.
Yes.
So there are a lot of them.
There are a lot of migrant workers, and the majority of them have entered the country without any passport, visa, work permit. And they're also from our neighboring countries.
So Burma, Cambodia,
And Laos, right? Because the way of Thailand, the border is, people
You
just
can't stop it
cross
everywhere.
through, So all these people are entering, have an illegal status, and they're working in Thailand, but they're the employers very much need these workers for many reasons. At least one reason is that many jobs Thai people will not take anymore, like in construction work, fisheries, seafood sorting. Secondly, because employers find that they can have cheaper labor, and hopefully that can help them to export in that. So we see that the government is now recognizing the need of migrant workers and now opening for more and more registration.
So for those people who say, oh, migrant workers, they're bad, they come over, they bring diseases, they're stealing all our jobs, it's not really true, is it?
This is changing. I think it depends on what the government announces, but the government is now saying that Thailand needs migrant workers. Our population, first, people have more options for jobs. Secondly, we have a population that's aging.
Yes.
So we have the work age, the workforce is getting reduced. So we will need migrant workers for many more years. And we see both women, men, and children coming into Thailand. Well, we think that very much interested in the health rights of migrants, because any human being must have the rights to health,
Yes.
good health. And we see in the population that now migrants who are registered, who have come documented, are entitled to health insurance.
Yes.
But even then, we see that women and children in particular have additional needs because
Yes.
of being women, being children, and these have been so far been neglected. We all know women, between men and women, on gender issues,
Yes.
men normally have more power, more independence to move around, to find
Yes.
jobs, negotiate salaries. Women have less than. That's very typical Asia, if not worldwide. Women have less bargaining power. So this bargaining power with their employer may be less. And we see at the same time that sexual abuse could easily happen, and does happen. And if you're a Thai woman, you at least can go to the police, to the court easily. But if you're a Burmese or a Cambodian woman, you're going to police may see very difficult.
So Rux Thai Foundation have actually come up with a framework of 5 key policies that they would like to see the government address. I think they're very interesting because every single one of them seems to me to just be so logical. I suppose the first logic step is you have to say, we need the migrant workers, and so how do we get the best value out of them? Well, we have to look after them. So what are the 5 key platforms that Rux Thai Foundation is proposing? Let's go through them one by one.
Okay, I think the first one that we have, this is based on a lot of work of 5 years working with migrant workers and working with many partners and stakeholders. And we think the first one is that recognizing that women entering the country are likely to have children or to have a partner and have children. So family planning service is a basic need. And this family planning service should be on a voluntary basis, should not be forced by the government, should not be used as a reason for employers to let women who are pregnant go from employment. So that's number one. Secondly, we think that with that, women are vulnerable to exploitation and sexual abuse. So there must be more precautions, more mechanisms to protect migrant women, or to allow that police, the legal process system can work with migrants if there is a case that relating to a migrant woman. Thirdly, we think that children, it's very important that children have the social development that they require, and that they can have schooling, they have proper raising, child development, and this is also very needed. And then fourthly, we think that the government must finance this process. It shouldn't be something that every baht we pay for migrants comes from the migrant. It should come from the government, because Thailand is earning a lot of money from
these migrants, yes.
And the last one, we think that the human rights of migrants should be respected, and of all types of issues on migrants.
I think 5 very key issues that seem so logical, and they usually get a little bit clouded over by the nationalistic issues, I suppose, of people saying, but we don't want the migrants, we don't need them, they're taking our jobs, they're ruining our country. But in fact, when we look at things more logically, all around the world, as a country develops, they need cheaper labour, and often cheaper labour comes from neighbouring countries. There's a reason why there are so many Thai cooks and Thai labourers and Thai construction workers working all around the world, is because in those other markets that are perhaps a little more developed than ours, we are the migrant workers. Here in Thailand, perhaps we can do things a little better than we've done in the past.
Yes.
And you think the paperwork process is improving with regards to registration for allowing the migrant workers to become more legal, the 4-year permit, for example?
Well, last year was the first time the current government issued open registration again. And there's about 1.4 million
So it's gone up a lot then?
Yes.
It's gone up a lot, because it used to be under a million.
Now entered in that process, 1.4 million. And these migrants have to go through a process of nationality verification, which is still very problematic. But there's hope.
And it's better than it was.
Yeah. So at least maybe more than half the migrants will be in the process. And we hope the government will start looking how to really meet the labor need of Thailand.
Bit by bit, I
Yeah.
suppose is the expression. What is it? Cha-cha lim ngam.
Yes, they're very good.
Yes, takes a long time, but in English we say slowly, slowly catch a monkey. It's sometimes seems like pulling teeth, but each step that we do seems to improve things a little bit for migrant workers. So hopefully this will continue, and also with the good work of Rux Thai Foundation being able to push these policies through, I think. Thank you very much for joining us on Morning Talk.
Thank you very much.